Alright, well, I'm going to show you how I season a pan. Got this Griswold pan up in Michigan on vacation. It had a bunch of rust on the back of it. Probably should have videotaped me cleaning off that rust. It was really easy with hot water and an SOS pad. And a little bit of elbow grease. It was not too bad. There's still some carbon buildup on the edges that I could clean up by throwing in a fire, but I'm just going to go with it. I've got this jar full of bacon grease, aka lard, and this pan I just cleaned up, used soap and cleaned it all off, and now it's been sitting on this heat to open up the pores just a little bit and get rid of all the moisture. So that's only been sitting there about as long as I've gotten the prep time to get a knife for the lard and a paper towel to use to smear. So this is my first time doing a griddle. Most other times I've just done a pan, a small pan. I kind of messed up on this one, so I may do some work on that guy. And so basically, got it heated up. I'm going to get it up to about medium heat on the gas grill, and I'm putting some bacon grease on there. Bacon. So I'm gonna let that melt on there, and then I'm gonna take my paper towel, and we're gonna get it really hot, so I'll use an oven mitt. I'm gonna smear this all around the surface. I know some people put them in the oven to do, but I don't want to use that much energy. Put it in the oven for like 350 or 400 degrees for however long, an hour or whatever. That's a lot of energy. I'm just going to use this. Now I'm going to move the dial to high so the gas is really cooking, and I'm going to watch it and look for it to bubble and watch the oil move around. It starts to gel a little bit, and okay, so you see, I don't know, can you see that? Can you see that it's moving around a little bit? I'm going to turn the heat down, and it's going to, you start to see it pool in some areas if you get the light just right. Can you see it doing that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then now I'm going to spread it back around a little bit with the towel, and I mean, this is a lot of bunched up paper towels, so I'm trying to be sure not to burn myself. And so just spreading it around again, and I turn it up to high again. And so what's happening here is the pores of the metal are opening up and taking in some of the grease, and that's how it's getting seasoned. So if this was just a one-time cleaning, it was cleaned and already seasoned, I might do this once and be done with it. But since this one, I scoured it and I used a steel wool on it. I mean, I really did a number on it, so it really needs to be fully seasoned. And I don't know, can you see how it's kind of gelling together? So when I see it do that, I turn it back to low again, and I wipe it down. So as long as I see that it's still spreading around, that's all the more grease I've used. Heat that guy up again and give it a coat.
Move this one.
Just Move
that one, please.
Just putting on thin coats, a little at a time. Something else that'll need to be done. I'm going to get this up to temperature, but you can start to see it kind of bubbling or pooling in certain ways. It actually seems to be blackening up fairly well. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to cool it down and wipe it down a little bit. Now, on this particular pan where the rust was on the back. So guess what? If I don't take care of that, it's going to rust there again. So basically, part of the seasoning isn't just to make it non-stick, but also to keep it from rusting. And I'm burning my finger. So I just put a thin coat on there. Very thin coat. Need a little more than that. But now this towel, you can see it's kind of gnarly looking now after putting it on the back there. I'm going to add some more grease since this is basically a fresh seasoning. Going to use more grease than normal, than just a regular after supper cleaning. I'll let it run around there a little bit. I'm going to wipe this on. So I filled this, kind of saturated this side of the towel. Some people will use a paper towel like me. Some people will they have a specific rag that they use. It's all gooey with grease, and they just keep using that over and over again, which is fine. We don't necessarily have that yet, and I'm just using this paper towel, not being very green, but you know, we aren't buying fresh stuff. This pan is could possibly be as old as my dad, or it could, and I know it's older than me because the company went out of business in the mid-50s. So it's looking pretty good. I'm going to heat it up again. So basically, some people have asked how long it takes to do this or how long you heat it up. I kind of eyeball it whenever I see the grease kind of, I want to say, coalesce or come together and separate. They come into like small groups or little bubbles, and just when I see that, then I get a pretty good feel that something good is happening to the pan, and it's time to cool it down again and wipe it off, or wipe it down and repeat the process. But the first time around I would just do this maybe about 5 or 6 times, like what I've done so far, and then cook on it, and then just let the cooking season it. I've heard that using vegetable oil and such is not quite so good for the pan, but that you want to use animal fat. So I prefer to use bacon grease, but it's all up to you. But you can see how it's starting to kind of pool up in areas a little bit. Can you see that? Good. When I see that, I turn her back down to low, grab the handle, my oven mitt, of course, and wipe it down. I think this is probably good enough for this time. Going to give it a good wipe down on the back here, all over, because it was so rusty. Do a little bit on the handle here because it has a little bit of brown to it. I don't know if that's just the steel browning or if it was wanting to rust. But that is my seasoned pan. I'm going to heat it up one more time, just one last time for good measure. I wasn't keeping count, so we'll see how that is. Just heat it up one more time, and it's gelling up pretty good already. I'm fairly happy with this. It's ready for grilled cheese and pancakes, quesadillas, all kinds of goodies. I've also heard people say don't put butter on them. I'm not too concerned about that, especially if it's well seasoned. The biggest thing is I think the foundation needs to be animal fat, and I prefer bacon grease. So, and I keep my bacon grease in the refrigerator so that it's not all. I've seen other people where it looks all gooey and everything, and I'm just going to turn that off. I think it's good to go. The risk you run with this, if you keep it on there too long, is you get some of that, and you have to do what I'm doing now. Oh, and if you see it smoking, that's not a bad thing. Whenever you clean it up, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the smoke. They say smoke is a good thing a lot of times. So